Hi, welcome to my new genealogy series, The Kitchen Genealogist. And the reason I call it The Kitchen Genealogist is because this is where I have chosen to video, but the only thing is my kitchen is still kind of under the weather from all my other canning and things that I do. But anyway, that being that, let's get right into the subject. Our subject today is genealogy. And I'm going to start with my Evans line because that was my maiden name before I got married. My name was Laura Marie Evans. And I was born April 1st, 1946 in Webster City, Iowa. My parents were Ivan Rex Evans and Loretta Callery Evans. My parents had been married for about, I don't know, 4 years when I was born. But 2.5 of those years, my father was in a German prisoner of war camp during World War II. So I guess that postpones, having kids. So anyway, what I want to do is to tell you a little bit about how I got started in genealogy. I really have always been interested. It isn't that it just one day said, oh, I've got to do my genealogy and, I need to do all that. That's not what happened for me. When I was a little girl, I had a great aunt that taught me a lot about my Swedish relatives. She was not on the Evans side. She was on my mother's side, the Callery side, but she was not a Callery. She was an Ely. So we'll get into all that later. But anyway, she started my love of genealogy. So I just really have never not wanted to do it. So about, I'd say 7 or 8 years ago, we were called to work in our family history center in our ward in Des Moines, Iowa. And so I just really got into it then, and I did quite a bit, and I've just never stopped. And I spend many hours a week working on genealogy. It's really an addiction. I guess it's better than a lot of addictions would be, but it is an addiction. And you do get hooked, let me tell you. Well, the thing is that with genealogy, even though it's a lot of fun, it's a lot of work. You will spend hours and hours and hours just researching, assembling, re-researching, reassembling, just trying to decide how am I going to put all this stuff together. So what I did, and I'm not saying this would work for everyone, and please use your own methods. But for each family line, and it's certainly grown from when I started, I had a notebook. And as you can see, I started out with a pretty good sized notebook. But there's many more that go with this line. There's a ton of work that is not in here. But anyway, I started with the notebook, and I started with what I knew because, what else could I do? I didn't know anything else. So what I did is I started searching for information about my father, and it was really hard because I really didn't know my dad's family that much. I was very close to his brothers, but his brothers, my grandpa and grandma, had not been that particularly close to the Evans side of the family. I guess there had been a falling out years and years ago, and it was really difficult. This is a picture, excuse me. This is a picture of my mom and dad, and this was about 1958, 1957 maybe. They had been living in Winterset, Iowa. That's where we lived. And we were in Webster City at the time of that picture. That was for Christmas. My dad was born in Fontenelle, Iowa in 1912. And I went to Adair County, where Fontenelle is, and tried to find his birth certificate. And no luck, because obviously he was born at home, and they just didn't have a record of it. So I don't know. And I've done some other searching, but I really haven't, you know. I did go to their courthouse, so I don't know what else I can do, because unless the state would require something, I don't know what you would do. That's something that maybe I'll work on later. But anyway, what I first wanted to do is get back to my great-grandparents and find out who they were, and you know why they were in Iowa, and who they came there with. This is my great-grandfather. That's kind of hard to see. Charles Cloud Evans. Now, he's a very interesting guy. He was from Jefferson County, New York. And his father was Amos Evans. And Amos's father was General Samuel Evans. And General Samuel Evans fought in the Revolutionary War. He was a Quaker from Pennsylvania. Actually, they lived in Philadelphia. But after the Revolutionary War, they were granted land, so they went to New York. And they were up around Jefferson County, which is close to the Canadian border. It's in the Finger Lakes region, I believe. And Samuel was married to Nancy Clough, C-L-O-U-G-H, and I really know nothing about her family. I have tried and tried. I've looked everywhere, and there just isn't anything. But I do know quite a bit about Samuel's family, because he was a Quaker. Well, so was Nancy, but they really kept track of the men better. I mean, women always get the shaft, you know that. It's the war on women, always. So anyway, he was a Quaker, and he was not the first generation of his family. He was about probably the fourth generation American. They came here in the 1600s, right after William Penn, and they purchased land in Pennsylvania. And the first Evans that I can find that we are related to was a Thomas Evans. And Thomas was a personal friend of William Penn. And William Penn would often come to their home. And so the family was very influential in that area. And the Quakers were a very tight-knit group. And I have a lot of history that I will be going through later on that, but not right now. This is just kind of an overview. So anyway, we're there. We've gotten, and they came from Wales, of course. Everyone knows Evans is a Welsh name. And so we've gotten to America. We've gotten through the Revolutionary War. Samuel's living in Jefferson County, New York, with his family. And he had a very prolific family. There were really a lot of them. So I'm going to go through all of those names and all of those things at a later date. But what I want to do today is just give you a little background on how we got from Pennsylvania to New York to Iowa. So what happened is, as the war ended and people moved on, they made farmsteads and made lots of money. A lot of people made a lot of money then. It was a good time in the United States about then. And so for my great-grandfather Amos, Samuel's son, he stayed in New York. He didn't leave like a lot of his brother Musgrove went to Michigan, and that is an interesting story. I'll be giving a lot of information on that at a later date. But anyway, he stayed there, and he lived there all his life. And my grandmother, Sarah, her name was Sarah Brown, great-great-grandmother. And she was part of the Brown family that created Brownsville, New York, in Jefferson County. She was very in a very, very influential family too. Her cousin, Jacob Jennings Brown, was a military leader in the War of 1812, and that's a lot of history. So we'll go into that later too. But unfortunately, Sarah died and left Amos with the children. They were almost grown, maybe, yeah. And then Mary Child was who he married next. And with Mary, they had 3 children: Cephas John, uh, and Clara, and I'm trying to think what's the other girl's name. Oh, I've got it right here. Uh, anyway, they all stayed in New York. They never left. Most of them did stay there. But my grandfather decided to go out on his own. And I find him first in the census in the 1850s in Illinois with his cousins, the Browns. I found him in the census there. There he joined up with the military and fought for the North in the Civil War. And after the Civil War, he went back to Illinois and decided to take they got land for fighting in the Civil War. So he decided to take his and go to Iowa. That's where he settled in Adair County in Somerset Township, had a big farm, married Sarah Ann Miller, and that's where we'll leave this today. So I will be back with you at a later date, and we'll go into some more of this. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.